Hello all. I'm here with Tony, Rinella, and Min Sung to try to kind of like take us from where we are as a community, how to manage knowledge and innovation, also from a building smart perspective. So if we can also get the slides up on the virtual screen, that would be great. So over the last 20 years or so, I think yesterday, as Martin reminded and corrected us, that CIFE over 20 some years ago, 21, 22 years ago, we at CIFE, we actually work with the Finland government and a number of innovators to actually put what was a theoretical research, the Open BIM Industry Foundation classes into practice. Sure, it was not perfect. Even today, IFC 4.3 may not be perfect, but we were able to document and manage the expectation. What were value adding? What were room for improvement? What could we done? What could we do on an actual project for the professors working on life cycle costs at that time, right? And that was, as Martin and I may relate, one of the most downloaded reports, technical reports for SciFi for some time. And then not only working with managing that pocket of innovation from one project is one thing. How do we grow it? How do we scale it? So about exactly 20 years ago, I would say exactly 20 years ago, SciFi then started to work with the GSA, one of the largest owners in the world, surely in the US, and actually expedited a lot of this knowledge sharing and expertise to the US. Also 20 years ago, GSA made a mandate that all projects had to submit in IFC form, open standard form, by year 2006. So, okay, having one large organization do it well, it's one thing, but how do we manage it, diffuse it globally? So over the years, then GSA teamed up with over a dozen global peers of GSA, such as Statspeak, such as Sanati, in Japan and many, many other countries, and how they could team up and promote that together. Fast forward, over the COVID years, we had rebooted the Building Smart USA chapter. I'm also volunteering as the chapter president, along with Tony, Min, Janice. We work a lot on that. And there was also a reciprocal membership between SciFi and Building Smart USA. So how do we continue to grow that? How do we gain relevance? One activity we have done is to celebrate success, to look out to what we can learn from one another. So for years now, Building Smart International has an international awards program. This year, we have also assembled a jury team from the US with good broad representation to participate. So I think even on the jury side, there are more than 20 global chapters with over 100 jury members judging those projects. And this year, I think we get somewhere around 100 project submissions. From the past years, you can see and a lot of those may not be perfect, they have their shortcomings, but nonetheless, they were able to quantify, to celebrate, and prove the business impacts, and also how they contribute to a more sustainable, a more prosperous environment. And actually, this year will be celebrated in September in Norway. So I know a lot of SciFi Norwegian friends. We look forward to also crossing over between the two. As we talk about clients and projects objectives yesterday. As we talk about over the years, we've been working with a number of folks of how to measure and how to quantify that. As there is also a SciFi research project on that this year. The same for Building Smart. We also look at how to not have each award submission tell their own story in a PDF format. How can we quantify business impacts? How can we quantify, standardize, analyze, and predict what we do in terms of quantifiable metrics. So that's also something that it's being added to this year's awards program, and also something that we will be formalizing, and also welcome more global collaboration with SciFi and other collaborators. So going from one project in Finland to organizations like GSA is one thing, but how do we grow that globally? So today, focusing on asset owners and operators, you can see that we have more and more pockets of individual asset owners, government agencies making that commitment. And if we go to the next slide, we're also very happy to see that in Italy, in Rome, that both Switzerland with your Swiss railway company and the American infrastructure community have both also stepped in and say that they are adopting OpenBIM and even the latest version of IFC 4.3 in hundreds of Swiss railway projects and also across all 50 states here in the US with the AASHTO resolution. And more than that, they also in the US, and then just like the previous slide, we're showing that 7 Scandinavian countries, many of you are in the room, also have committed to using IFC for infrastructure. And in the US, we're working very closely with Federal Highway, with AASHTO, that is the American Association for State Highway Official, who has a commitment that all 50 states and the 2 districts will also be adopting OpenBIM. Again, OpenBIM, it's about leveraging the open standard to promote digital workflow for sustainability and profitability of our industry. And more than that, more than 20 states actually put in funding to what they call a pool fund, led by WSP in one case, HDR in another case, to actually look more into the technical detail. What is the IDM? What is the ESDD? What are some of the potential IDS? Kind of like all the recipe to make this a potential seamless workflow. Yet a lot of those resolution, when you work beyond one organization, beyond one entity, one country, would take time to harmonize. Look at ISO standard, right? It's already accelerated. Now we are close of getting ISO certification for IFC 4.3. So what our team at Building Smart USA have come up and teaming up with Renata Futter and Martin and others is that to celebrate Renata's 30th anniversary of PBL, we actually put together what we call Seeing It's Believing workshop at Stanford the day before. And we wanted to say that what can we do more to cross-pollinate between this community? What can we do to actually do something together using maybe imperfect technology, kind of like having the agile mindset? So that day we were able to attract over 250 people who expressed interest, 15 countries represented, and more than 30 asset owners, 20 of them coming from different highway community. And also to cross-pollinate between CIFE research students. 3 students show what they are doing in terms of innovation, and also to then cross-pollinate about what the global community can contribute in those research, such as Caltrans, as we heard earlier today. Next slide. So the Seeing It's Believing program initiative is about what we all can do with available technology, focusing on more agile kind of like process, and rather than just looking at future 5-year, 10-year roadmap, always say that, well, I'm not ready when the standard is not ready, or my technology is not ready, and I'm waiting for the software to do things. So rather than what others can do for us, what we can do for the community. And so what we want to match is that within a short period of time, say between now and the end of the year, between now and August, can we partner with solution seekers and facilitators and providers to actually solve something that, say, the asset owners, they may be the Boeing, they may be the Genentech, they may be the highway community, deem as important. And with that, what can we do in a short period of time? So with that, I think Min is going to take away and show us some sound bites and some current plans. Min.
Okay, thank you, Calvin. So I will focus a little bit more on what happened on May 11th. That was the first Seeing Is Believing event. And on that day, Erie presented, Erie is from SimpleBIM, some of you might know. SimpleBIM is IFC-based BIM software. And one of the concerns that US professionals had today was that US is ready to adopt OpenBIM and IFC for infrastructure projects, but a lot of professionals are concerned and worried that IFC is not ready for infrastructure yet because they do not have a defined classification. Of course, IFC 4.3 is coming, but this is still under development. And what Erie pointed out is that it's not that important that you have a classification or not. What defines an object is not a classification. What defines an object, to Erie's point, are the properties. So if you do have enough properties that can describe an object or entity, and if you do have that rich property information, classification is not that important. So even without the right classification in the IFC version back in 2014, almost like more than 10 years ago, Erie was able to implement IFC for a bridge project that you see here. Another presentation on that day, May 11th, was Future Insight platform from the Netherlands, and this platform is actually very similar to the platform that we showed yesterday, integrating basically the OpenBIM, the IFC side, and OpenGIS CityGML. And on top of that, they also use 3D tiles for data streaming, and they also use scan data from drones to overlay the images. Similar to a previous case, Akka software also presented on that day. The difference between this one and the previous one is that for the backdrop or the GIS side, Akka software used a proprietary format, Esri, instead of OpenGIS or CityGML. But of course, for the BIM part, they did use IFC models. And in this example, what they did was they integrated IoT sensors in real time with the IFC model. Of course, researchers from CIFE also presented, Jun Wen on BIM GPT and Jin Poon on video-based pavement detection, more focused on checking the quality of the pavement. And also Steiner with Trimble presented his experience back from Norway. And like Calvin said, this Seeing is Believing event was part of a PVL event as well, so Renata was there as well. And this is a survey that we ran before the workshop and during the workshop, and the question that we asked for the community, infrastructure community in the US, what are some use cases that you like to see by using OpenBIM? And as you can see, when we have the terms of BIM and GIS integration, we notice that they are automatically attracted to that topic or use case. So they are interested in BIM and GIS integrated visualization, data query, but of course, since the IFC standard is not there for the classification when adopting OpenBIM, they are concerned about the quality of the model as well. So model checking and model checkers are important topics and use cases for US professionals. Speaking about model checker, this is an example that we showed yesterday. This is a case where we use the new standard, the Building Smart IDS standard for checking models. And some other use cases besides the BIM and GIS integration and model checking, they were interested in MALD. It's interesting that in terms of model as a legal document, the adoption is faster in the horizontal sector compared to vertical sector in the US. They have tested MALD in many projects, pilot projects in different states today. And digital twin is kind of a buzzword, but when they say digital twin, most of them are thinking about IoT sensors and integrating that with IFC model. OpenCD is also a topic that they were interested in. So if you summarize all the use cases that the US professionals were interested in seeing for the infrastructure sector today, model checking platform, model as a legal document, digital twin, more focused on the IoT sensors, and then BIM and GIS integration, as well as data dictionary and OpenCD platform. So just moving on with this Seeing is Believing program, step one is done, and next step for us is to acquire some IFC models from Department of Transportations And when we receive those IFC models, we foresee that the quality won't be that high with IFC 4.0 not here yet. So we will have to improve that model using processes like Erie used with a simple BIM. And once the model is improved a little bit, then we will put it in a sandbox and run test cases. So some DOTs that we are reaching out to, and talking with a New York State DOT and also California DOT Caltrans. And not only Department of Transportation, but we are also in talks with consultants like HDR and Michael Baker. And the first use cases that we are planning to test is, as you've seen from the survey, a lot of people saw model checking is important, so we will be running a model check test cases and also integrate that with BCF because that's used for issue resolutions after running the model checking. Just moving forward, we will be reporting back on the progress of Seeing is Believing program. Next opportunity is the August event in Chicago, but we do have a couple of more conferences lined up this year. So with that, I will turn it over to Tony to talk about Building Smart Certification Program.
Great, thanks, Min. We've heard some pretty inspirational integration insights today. Perhaps you're asking yourself, how can I bring my team quickly up to speed with open standards and technologies that seem to be essential elements for effective integration and teaming, and being future fluid, as we learned to say from Aaron at Caltrans earlier today. Well, today I'm wearing my Building Smart hat, or gear, thanks to our logo. Speaking about our work in developing 4 tiers of certification and supportive education geared toward different needs. Practitioner level provides deep dives into specific responsibility sets and how to achieve them. The new management level provides practical knowledge for managers who are not necessarily hands-on with the systems, yet need to knowledgeably and confidently manage those who are. Foundation gives a conceptual overview and tools to navigate terminology encountered in open BIM-enabled projects. Great for owners and others entering the space. The new entry level is for those who need conceptual understanding without studying the underpinning technology, ideal for students and those entering the AEC-00 universe. Next slide, Min, thank you. So when we look at the foundation level, we're really treating the use of information and models throughout the asset lifecycle, beginning with the importance of establishing owner information requirements. The course covers concepts and terminology from ISO 19650, as well as building smart open standards and other open BIM sources. It leads to an internationally recognized certification, which means that no matter where people acquire this knowledge, we can rely that people have the same underpinning and basic foundation of understanding for use on projects, extremely important with international projects. On the next slide, we look at the management course. This provides a deeper dive with real-world exemplars to illustrate concepts in practical application. And it also includes takeaways like checklists that can be used immediately by project managers in their day-to-day work. On the next slide, we see that as part of the management program, we're relating ISO 19650 with the traditional VDC concepts to further emphasize the importance of ISO and the processes it outlines and the open standards it uses to support integration and, quite importantly from our perspective, to introduce those who approach us with a focus on open BIM to the broad and rich concepts of VDC, optimizing the value of integrated data, integrated practice, and integrated knowledge. On the last slide, we'll see that the uptake is pretty good and growing. So Thanks very much. Min, back to you.
Thank you.